Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the Course Creator Community Podcast. I'm just about to start a podcast with a very, very special guest. I'll introduce her in just a minute or two when we get our podcast started. But when it comes to generating revenue online, she knows a thing or two on the matter. She's had many different companies, or a few different businesses that have generated over $1 million. But also, what she's going to talk about today is it's not so much about how much money you make. It's how you make it, living the lifestyle that you want to make. We'll get started in just a second. Just before we do, usual deal, if you're watching this on Facebook, just jump on and hit like so we know that you're watching it. If you're watching it live, just comment below and write #live. If you're watching it on the replay, write #replay. My question for everyone today is, what's your favorite TV show? I know a lot of the time we talk about sales and marketing and online courses, but for a bit of fun, I would like to know what's your favorite TV show. Now, I'm going to introduce my guest properly in just a second, but let me quickly introduce her now. It's Ms. Bernadette Doyle. Bernadette, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Did you have a question you wanted to ask any of the people watching here on Facebook, Bernadette?
The question would be, because it's breakfast time here, I'm going to ask, what's your favourite breakfast dish?
Oh, out of curiosity, what's yours, Bernadette?
Eggs Benedict. Love Eggs Benedict.
Interesting. I'm a huge eggs fan, but I'm not a Benedict fan. Anyways, we're going to get into it. You ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the Course Creator Community Podcast, the place where online course creators go to sell more of their online courses. I'm super excited because we have a very special guest on the line this week, all the way from the UK. A little bit about this person. She regularly generates over $1 million worth of revenue a year. She's mentored clients to reach over $1 million a year. She's met Richard Branson and been to his private island for masterminds over there. And what I like most about this person, though, her philosophy is it's not how much you make, it's how you make it. She's all about generating that revenue, but also doing it with a lifestyle that you want. So without further ado, let me introduce the one and only Ms. Bernadette Doyle. Bernadette, how are you?
I feel like I need like a fanfare now coming down. Thank you.
No, thank you for your time. Bernadette, I like to start all my podcasts off with a quote or mantra that inspires you or fires you up.
Yeah.
Have you got one for us?
I do, and I say this a lot, and I say a lot to myself and my team, and I say it to my clients, and it's do what you can with what you've got from where you are.
Awesome. And what does break that down for a bit, Bernadette? What does that mean to you?
Well, a lot of people don't get started on things because they're wishing for a different starting point. So they're saying, well, if I was older, if I was younger, if I had a university education, if I didn't, if I did have kids, if I didn't. And the bottom line is there's only one place that any of us can start anything. It's from where we are. And there's always an action, there's always a move we can make, an action we can take with what we've already got. And so I think that quote has definitely guided me through my business career. And I think, you know, it really just generate a lot of resourcefulness if you carry that with you.
That's it. I love it. And I love that word resourcefulness. I can even give my 2 cents on that because that quote speaks to me a lot as well in a couple different ways. I heard someone say something similar. It was like there was some guru or some mentor and someone's like, look, I can't do it. You know, I'm too old. It's going to take me 10 years to do it. And I'm going to be 60 by the time I do it. And the mentor was like, well, how old are you going to be in 10 years if you don't do it? You're going to be 60 anyway. So you may as well do it. And then also I'm a huge fan of just getting started, you know, and even we all sort of get in those phases, right? I've just started a new Instagram account actually for this, specifically for this community and the podcast. And at the start, I was like, oh, I've got to get it perfect. I've got to get the image perfect. And I've got to get the subtitles perfect. And I've got to get the heading perfect. And then I was like, man, I'm never going to get anything done if all this goes out there. I'm just going to do what I've got and then slowly get better. So I love that you've brought that up. Now, Bernadette, I've done a bit of research on you and I find your story quite inspiring. I don't know it in depth. I just know from the outside in. But I was hoping, if it's okay with you, is it okay if you share that story with my listeners? We just spend the next half an hour or so. Let us know. You can start wherever you want to start. What I like about it is that you've had a very successful business, 2 different ones, one took a whole lot of work and energy, and the other one obviously did as well, but not as much. You were able to streamline a little bit more. I was hoping you could just break that down. Start wherever you want to start, take as long as you want to take, and let us know.
Well, I'll start before I came online, and well before I was even thinking about online courses, because I started out working as a training consultant with clients like Sony and Aviva and AIG. And it was very much a trading time for money business. And I realized that there were limitations, because I was literally only ever earning money if I was out with a client. And if I wasn't, then the income dried up. So I realized that that wasn't a sustainable business. And around that time, I got very interested in selling information products. And then I got introduced to the idea that you could sell these products online. And I remember getting tingles thinking, what an incredible business model. Now, this is going back like 20 years ago. Like, nobody was selling products online then. And so I guess in the UK, I was probably one of the first people to start selling information, certainly to like a female entrepreneur audience. And it was great, but I really had this kind of $1 million target, that I was working towards. And I reached that, but I reached it because there was a lot of complexity in our business. So we were launching all the time. We used to run live events. And without being conscious of it, I kind of created the same trap. And I still had a business that if I wasn't physically showing up for bits of it, the income would dry up. That was the whole point, to try and get away from that. And so everything came to a head when my son, who was 3 at the time, nearly died. He got an illness that, just escalated very quickly. And that was a real opportunity to stand back, really take a look at my business and think, why am I doing this? What's this really about? And that's when I re-engineered my business and I redesigned it.
Yes. Okay. Interesting. So I think there's a few good points there. We'll even spend a second breaking that down, and then we'll get into this new business here. So that's a common trap for everyone to start with, is the time for money. And even a lot of people listening to this, they may not even be completely leveraged. They may still be doing, some sort of one-on-one stuff. And what can happen a lot of time with course creators starting off is they'll make more dollars per hour for their coaching sort of stuff. Right?
Yes.
Not a ridiculous amount more. They might charge, I don't know, $100 per hour for, the one-on-one sort of stuff. And the courses may be more than that. But if you've got a one-on-one, it might be 10 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever, right? So it can be very easy to think, all right, well, hold on, I'm making more money on the one-on-one, so I'm going to spend more time on that. The down point to that is you actually have to physically be there. So I think that's an important distinction there, where you can do one-on-one stuff. That's great. But to be completely leveraged, you've got that online side of things there. You then went on to the new business, where it was still online, but there was a whole heap of stuff you were doing there. There was launches, there were probably webinars, there were live events. And then essentially, even though it was passive income, because you're selling these courses or these digital products without you actually trading time for dollars, technically still you're spending a whole heap of time to generate that revenue. So it is sort of in a way there. So you're making a whole heap of cash, but it wasn't leverage. You still had to launch, you still had to plan, you still had to run these events and webinars and that sort of thing. So there was a lot of money, but there was also a lot of work. Then you had the situation and you were like, all right, cool, I've got to have a look at this and find a better way. Tell us about this better way. How does this better way work?
Well, this was what it really came down to, was like re-engineering how I was going about my business. So first of all, where I was very involved was on the selling side. So we were using live events to upsell coaching programs, and I was still doing live live webinars and things like that. So there was and live launching. So that was one thing that I really wanted to streamline, to move that more over to automation, and so that we weren't so launch dependent. But I also wanted to streamline my offerings, which was, before we had multiple products and programs, and it was like we'd sell a short program, do some type of boot camp, and I realized that I didn't get to $1 million with my online business by taking one program. It's a journey. I think really it takes between 2 and 4 years if you're starting from scratch. It can be done in 2 to 4 years, but that's still 2 to 4 years. So I wasn't serving someone by saying, oh, just come on this 8-week program. We had to kind of map out a longer term journey. So those were the big changes I made. It was like re-engineering how we sold and re-engineering how we served.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's dive a bit deeper into those. What do you think would be easier to start with? If someone's watching this and they're like, okay, my serving is just a lot of time, or my selling is a lot of time, which one would be easier to give a few tips to help some of the listeners out, do you think?
Let's go with the serving, because you talked about, how a lot of online course creators are in the position where they're working one-to-one and they're actually making more from that than they would from an online course. And so I totally understand that. That's something that a lot of my clients deal with as well. And the point I want to make is it doesn't have to be either or. So I know so many experts that are putting off doing an online course because they're working with clients one-to-one, and they've maybe got an idea, well, my online course, I could never charge as much as I do for one-to-one. And that's the thought I want to challenge, really, because whether it's a course or one-to-one coaching, what you're really providing is a transformation. Like that's why people are buying from you. They're not buying because they want an online course. They're not buying because they want one-to-one coaching. They've got an issue, a problem, a challenge, something they want to change in their life. And so what's important is that you are helping them make that transformation. And one of the things that I've do with my clients is I help them create what I call a hybrid offer, which is create some form of container. So whether it's 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, that inside of this period of time, your clients will make this transformation, and then figure out what do they actually need in order to achieve that result. And a good 80% of that can be put into pre-recorded video or pre-recorded content. But there's going to be a piece where they just need you, and they just need you to help nudge them through an obstacle, a challenge, to deliver a piece of mindset, whatever. And that's the piece you should be showing up for. But that doesn't mean it has to be one-to-one. And there's clearly a lot of it that can be delivered without you showing up in person. And so that's where I would steer people to. And I think that's a really fantastic stepping stone for anyone who wants to create an online course, because you're really getting there by working, it goes back to do what you can with what you've got. You're getting there by working with what's in front of you and what you've got to help those people.
Yes. Wow. Some amazing points there, Bernadette. Let's dig a little bit deeper, because there's a lot of points there that some people may sort of gloss over. So I want to make sure we spend a bit of time on them. What I loved you said there was the transformation, right? You're not selling one-on-one coaching. You're not selling an online course. You're selling, hey, you're at A and I'm going to help you go to B. And I'm going to put a challenge out there to a lot of the listeners and a lot of the viewers as well. My background is actually in fitness, and this works really, really well in fitness as well in many different ways. But let's even simplify it, right? You can do one-on-one personal training with fitness, or you can do a boot camp and you can have 20, 30 people down there, right? And a lot of one-on-one personal trainers will think, all right, well, hold on, I can give someone a better result than you can because I'm doing one-on-one and you're doing group. And I'll challenge that. Maybe you can, but maybe you can't. Maybe I'm just a lot better at you than what I do, so I can deliver that result in a group that you can in a one-on-one. So I think that's important as well. And if we look at it in someone like, I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. Let's look at Tony Robbins, right? He runs a seminar and he gets thousands of people down there, and he charges $1,000 for it because he's good enough to get that result with that amount of people there, right?
Yeah.
Someone may be looking at that and being like, look, I can't charge $1,000 for an online course or for a group course or whatever it may be. Tony Robbins does it with like 6,000 people. And I'm not saying you have to be Tony Robbins, but it's just a way to think about it, where it's like, okay, hold on. If I can give this person this result, it doesn't have to be one-on-one. Can it be a group-based or a online sort of thing? Would you agree with that, Bernadette?
Yeah, and I'd even take it a bit further with the example you're giving, which is fitness. So with fitness, what's the bit that the trainer has to show up for, which is, guiding a person through a workout routine, typically if they're working one-to-one with a client. But if you look at the result that someone gets, and you will know this, like the fitness, like the actual exercise bit is only one portion of the result. It's like diet and nutrition is a massive part of it. So, where does the one-to-one stop? Are you literally going to be spooning food into your clients' mouths? but they still need guidance with that. They still need
Yeah.
help with that. They still need guidance tapping into their motivation. And so there's a lot that can be done there, that can be done with information, and it's not you physically having to show up in person all the time.
Yes, love that there. And even and another point you mentioned as well, where you're like, okay, let's look at the time period, and then let's look at, I guess, the action tasks someone needs to take to get that result. I love the way you mentioned that, because that's also the way I structure my online courses. I only do online courses, right? But it's the same sort of thing. It's like, right, here's the result that I want to get. If someone needs to get the result, they need to do action task 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, right?
Yeah.
Now, when I look at that online course, it's like, okay, what do I have to put in the module to convince this person, or to sell this person, or to motivate that person to do action task number 1? As long as they do action task number 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, they're going to get that result. And yes, it may be a little bit easier if I'm there doing a one-on-one Zoom call and telling them, hey, do this, but it's not going to be feasible for me, So it's like, okay, what's the result they want? And then what have I got to get them to do? Whether it's a hybrid, whether it's an online, but I think it's a good way to think about it. It's not just trading dollars for time, or, hey, the only way I can help this person is by jumping on and doing this here. And even if it's the best, right? Even if that is the best, or not even the best, maybe it's just the easiest. Maybe the easiest way is to deliver a one-on-one. That might be the easy way, right? Find another way to get that result without it just being scalable. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Awesome. Cool. Well, hey, there's some awesome tips there on the delivery side of things, Bernadette. What about the sales side of things? Let's say someone's watching this and, their major way of selling is either going down and doing organic messages, posting on Facebook groups, maybe getting on some Zoom calls. So still spending a lot of manual time doing the selling, right? The delivery might be automated to sell an online course, but they're spending a lot of time actually doing the selling. What sort of tips can you give us there? Maybe early off, what are some of the early tips we can give?
Well, let's just break it down, because the first things you mentioned, which is posting in groups or messaging, those are not methods of selling. They're methods of prospecting. They're methods of engaging with people. Sales happens when there's a conversation, which is, this is what it is. This is, what it'll do for you. This is how much it costs. Are you in? So I think this is a bit of a pet peeve for me, but I think it's really important to distinguish between what's actual selling and what's prospecting. Now, I have all of my clients, I have them do all of that in person. And the reason for that is because that's where you learn about the language, the messaging, what the objections are, and how to overcome them.
Yep.
Are you okay? Have you got an alarm or something going off there?
That's the smoke alarm, but I'm at my parents'.
Oh, okay.
I'll turn it off. It's all
You're
good.
not about to burst into flames or something.
I hope not, but this podcast is just so good. I'll take getting burnt to keep listening to what you're saying.
Well, if I see flames coming through the window, I'll give you a heads up, okay?
Sounds good. I'm just going to close that door, but you keep going.
All right. Yeah, sure.
Yep, sorry, go.
Brilliant. Okay, so I have my clients do all of them one-to-one. But then the first piece of that then that I would then like automate, scale, would be the prospecting. So we use a lot of video, and we use a lot of video ads in my business, and that's something that we're just finding is working really well for building an engaged audience and really growing a tribe of people who know, like, and trust you. But when it comes to selling, I think it's really important. I think the most important skill that anybody can learn is the ability to have a conversation that leads to someone giving you money. And I recommend that all course creators start there, because if you try to sell from a web page, or sell from a webinar, or sell using a one-to-many method, before you've really nailed one-to-one selling, you're going to miss points. So my motto, I know we've been talking about mottos, you got to nail it before you scale it. And so it's really important to master those one-to-one conversations. And also, once you know how to do that, you literally have a skill in your back pocket that no matter what is going on in the economy, you just know that you're always able to generate business. And I think especially at this time, that's a really important kind of confidence builder that everybody needs.
Yes. Wow. Okay. So many good points there. Let me at least summarize this a little bit. So I'm going to start with that last point. where sales is potentially the best skill you can learn as any business owner, right?
Yeah.
Because, and I'll put it back down to fitness again, right? You can be the best personal trainer, best boot camp instructor in the world. If you don't know how to sell, you're sitting alone in the park doing push-ups. And we see it all the time, you know, and especially like, I think a lot of the time, if you're an expert at something, you may almost not look down at sales, but almost be like, well, I'm really, really good at what I do. So, you know, people are just going to come to me, and it doesn't
Yeah.
always work like that. So I love how you've said, and this is the way I look at sales training. Sales training should not cost you money. Sales training should make you money. If sales training is costing you money, you picked the wrong freaking sales coach or the wrong freaking sales course there, right? And even if we just think about it logically, let's say if you're watching this, you're listening to this, just have a think and be like, if I was better at sales, how much more of those prospects would I have converted? Even if it's, say, one a month at a $500 program, do the math on that. What's that? An extra $6,000, you know? So
Yeah.
if there was a sales course for whatever, $1,000, couple $1,000, and you did that, that could end up making you an extra thousands, 10,000s of dollars, potentially what you do, millions of dollars, just by doing that training there. So I think that's important. And also what Bernadette says is, once you know how to sell, it doesn't matter what's going on in the economy, and not even the economy, even just the world, whether it's TikTok, whether it's LinkedIn, whatever it may be. If you know how to sell, it's like, okay, whether you're sitting on the bus stop next to someone else, like if you know how to sell, you're going to find a way to make sales from that. It's like, okay, where are the eyeballs on? Cool. How can I sort of reverse engineer that? So I think that's really important there. The nail it before you scale it. So important, because, and I think this comes down to knowing your ideal customer. All right. The more one-on-one conversations you can have like this, the better you're going to understand that customer. And you'll probably see patterns. You're like, hold on, these people are just saying the same 3 or 4 things over and over again. Or every single person I speak to just says these 3 or 4 things. So, hey, in my sales page, let me just write these 3 or 4 things, and it's going to convert better. You know, when I run my webinar, cool, let me go and do these 3 or 4 things here to make it better there. So I love that. And I think it's a point a lot of people maybe try and get away from when they're starting online, where it's like, right, starting an online business, so it's got to be all online. And don't get me wrong, I love that as well. I know you do as well, but let's nail it first, where it's like, okay, if you're going to make it online, hey, make a few sales first, get on a few calls and speak to people before you set up the landing page and the automated webinar and the automated follow-throughs. And even that point on its own there, right? It's like, if you're going to do an automated webinar, probably makes sense to do a live one first and nail that first before you overview it, you know? Yeah. So I think that's all good there. Would that be a good summary of your sort of sales tips?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then I know we've got to be sensitive on time here. Just one more question on the prospecting side, and then I'll do some sort of finishing questions I'd like to finish up with. So you mentioned that a lot of the things you'll start to automate is the prospecting. And you said you do a lot of videos and video ads. Is that just a matter of, right, instead of me, you know, jumping on and doing a live video all the time, or instead of me waking up and always posting content out there, great, here's a series of videos that work all the time. Let me post them every week, or let me put it on an ad and put dollars on that ad. What does that actually mean, automating the prospecting side?
So you're absolutely right. You need to, I mean, if you're putting content out there, and you're putting content out there consistently, which I think is important, because you want to make yourself visible and valuable to your target audience. What you're going to find out is that the 80-20 rule kicks in. And I'm sure you've already found this with your podcast, that 20% of your podcasts have been really popular and they get most engagement, and the rest are okay. And you see that play out over and over. So what we do is like, we're like, well, let's take the 20% that's working really well, and let's just push that out to a wider audience. That's it, really. That's what you're essentially doing with ads, is you're taking content that's already working and has already proven itself, and you're just pushing out to a bigger group of people to spread your reach that way. So we don't overcomplicate it. That's how we do it.
Love it. And then you can follow up from there, right? You know, someone's seen that video, great. You might retarget them with another ad, or there might be an opt-in or whatever it may be. So love that. Awesome. Cool. Well, hey, Bernadette, there were some awesome tips. There's a couple of questions I like to ask all my guests to finish off with. Now, since most of my, or all of my listeners are going to be online course providers, do you have a platform of choice where you like to run your online courses, whether it be a Thinkific, whether it be a Kajabi, whether you're a WordPress Learn Dash person?
Mhm.
Do you have one particular platform?
Well, what we're using right now is Simplero, and we just use that because it is simple. I've heard great things about Kajabi, I have to say, but Simplero is where we're at right now.
Awesome. Love it. I've never heard of that one, but I'm going to Google it after this and check it out. Now, Bernadette, you're a mentor to many other entrepreneurs, online course creators out there. I've got a question for you in regards to your mentors, and I like to ask it in two ways. The
Mhm.
first way is, do you have any mentors you would like to give a shout out, whether it be a direct mentor that you've specifically hired yourself and paid money, or whether it's someone that you follow, like a Tony Robbins or an Amy Porterfield or whoever it may be? Have you got anyone you could give a shout out or recommend my listeners follow?
Oh, well, if it, I was going to give a different name, but if you're looking for someone to follow right now, someone who's really impacted me in the last 2 years is Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Mm,
And the interesting thing is, like, it's his content isn't about course creation or online business or anything like that. But the mindset and the personal gains I've got, I know have really played out in my business. So that's who I'll give a shout out to.
yes,
Dr.
I've heard
Joe.
the name. I don't think I've followed him. Is he one of the guys from The Secret? Is he in that movie?
No, he was in a different movie that was called What the Bleep.
Okay.
And I think that was about 10 years ago that movie came out. But he does an awful lot with meditation. Before lockdown, I went to some really awesome live events. Someone else who's sort of working with big groups of people at a time. But I do his meditations daily, and they're fantastic.
Okay, nice. I'll check him out. The other way I like to ask that question is in terms of books. Are there any books that you've recommend, Bernadette, that have changed your life or that have really helped you with the business, whether it's mindset, whether it's business, whether it's marketing, that you want to give a shout out or you recommend my listeners read or listen to?
Oh, there's so many. But you know what? I have to say, you've talked about him. Tony Robbins, Unlimited Power.
Mm,
I read that book in 1991, and I remember, for months carrying it around with me like a Bible. And there
mm.
were just parts of that book where it was like he was reaching through the pages, grab me by the throat, and get me to focus on certain things. And I loved that book, and it certainly started me off on a whole journey of personal development. So I think I'd have to say that one.
Yes, as you can probably tell, I'm a huge fan of Tony myself, and even just me in books in general. I love how you've said you carry it around because I feel like I think reading is super important. I read every single day at least an hour. What I think is just important though is implementing what you read as well. And
Mm.
some of these books out there, like the Tony Robbins books, and I'm even reading Russell Brunson's newest book for the second time. Same thing. Like I read a chapter and I'm like, there's so much depth in this. Like I need to just read this chapter like every day, a couple of days, and make sure I implement it like crazy before I move on to the next chapter there. So I think that's an important thing there. Now, Bernadette, someone's listening to this or watching this, and they're like, you know what? This woman is cool. I definitely want to follow her. I want to check out some of her stuff. What's the best? Should we watch your webinar? Should we check out your Facebook page? Go to your website? What's best for you?
Come to this page. Come to www.getclientsmasterclass.com. And you can see what I'm currently offering, which is all about getting clients. It's all about closing sales. And as I said, it's really important, especially at this moment in time, that you master this skill. And, that's the best place to connect with me.
Yes. Okay. If you're listening on the podcast, I'll put that in the show notes so you can click there. If you're watching on Facebook, just comment sales down below and I'll make sure that I get that link over to you. Bernadette, that's pretty much everything I wanted to chat about today. Is there anything I should have asked you but forgot to ask, or is there anything you want to finish us off with?
I think you've been pretty thorough. There's nothing more that really well, yeah, there is one thing I'll say. So you talked about sales and how some people kind of resist selling.
Mm,
So like, if I'm good at what I'm doing, I shouldn't need to sell. And I
mm,
totally get that. Like I've heard that a lot. I would end by saying that selling isn't something you do to someone,
mm,
it's something you do for someone.
mm,
So if you've got something that you believe, makes a difference, that you're passionate about getting out there, then, you know, you've got to step up and face your own sales reluctance and navigate your way through that in order to serve in the highest possible way. So
love that.
that's my final thought.
I'll piggyback off that as well. That's the exact way I look at sales. If I don't make a sale, I feel bad. Not for me, I don't care about myself. I'll make another one tomorrow or something, right? I feel bad for the other person because I could have potentially helped that person and changed their life if I had done a better job of selling, so they did my course. So that's the way I look at it. I look at it like that's the only way I can help this person there. So thank you for that final thought. We will end the podcast there. Now, if you're watching on Facebook, thank you very much. Just leave a comment below and say thank you to Bernadette because she's given up her time to be with us. Bernadette, that's it from my end here. I might do a bit of a close on Facebook. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. It's great being here with you.
Awesome. I'll leave you to it.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, so those of you that are watching on Facebook, usual deal, if you liked the video, just hit like. Any questions, comment them below and I'll go over there and get them over to you. If you are watching it live, just write #live. And if you are watching it on the replay, just write #replay. Have a good one.